Welcome once again. Coming off a couple of week hiatus, I've been moving. The environment is new. It is temporary. Bunk it up until I get the new place, and that is the least important thing I'll say throughout the entirety of this podcast you've chosen to listen, in which I welcome you to. My name is Davidson Baker. I am the host of this podcast, The Bottom Line, episode number 60. Crazy, I'm already at 60. The 27th MMA Tailored Edition, welcoming back the one, the only great friend of not only this program, of not only many of my peers amongst myself, but most importantly, a good guy and great friend of myself, the one, the only Mr. Marcel Dorff, head operator of all things MMA DNA. My friend, how are you?
Hey man, what's up, man? Glad to be back. Yeah, man. I'm just happy to be back. Thanks for having me again, as always.
I gotta ask, dude, what do I have to do to get one of those hats?
You have to custom made them.
Oh, you custom made it?
Yeah, man. I have a big hat, so I I had to find a website where they had like flex fit because otherwise it doesn't fit.
No.
Yeah,
You had to jump through hoops just to get a hat that fits your head?
yeah, man. An average hat doesn't fit my hat. I have like a Tito Ortiz hat, I think. So.
A Tito Ortiz. There was so that I told you on the air about what I do at my job. There's
Yeah.
this guy that comes in the other day, and one of my coworkers that doesn't watch MMA really at all. He taps on my shoulder. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna impress you right here." He's like, "That guy at the bar, that's Tito Ortiz." Dude looked just like Tito Ortiz. Oh man, I maybe a little less chiseled, but enjoying a couple of Michelobes. We got a lot to break down today, doing some news and notes from this past weekend. I'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention in depth to a degree what Cowboy Cerrone was able to do against Ally Aquinta, as well as what that means for the lightweight title picture. Bellator had a crazy event this past weekend. We'll go through all the new fight bookings from everything, every level. Ricky Bandejas versus Patrick Mix to DC versus Stipe 2. We'll touch on it, and then we'll get into what's going down this weekend. And I guess we'll start north of the border this past weekend. You know, I totally expected Iaquinta to come out fast out of the gates. And I guess I'll touch on Ally Aquinta momentarily, being that the man of the hour was obviously Donald Cerrone. It was the biggest fight on the card, being main event, fittingly so. But also the biggest fight magnitude-wise by quite a decent margin. Any fight right now, honestly, in that top 10 of the lightweight division has massive stakes, it seems. Give me kind of your overall impression of what Cowboy Cerrone was able to do. I mean, against a really, really good fighter in Ally Aquinta on Saturday.
Yeah, it was very impressive. I think he only lost the second round, but besides that, he dominated. He knocked him down. Very impressed by Cowboy. I didn't expect it at all, but mostly if I don't expect it, Cowboy does it, you know. So yeah, El Ayacuenta, we saw how tough he was against Khabib, but we know that before, right? So it's a big win, I think, for Cowboy, which got him in the top five of the lightweight division. And yeah, let's see what's coming from here. I mean, many options, I think, for Cowboy in this division.
Yeah, I definitely think that there are some juicy ones. The best part about it is, and I echoed this sentiment to someone else the other day, and you could really kind of plug and chug a couple of other guys at the top of this lightweight division to fit this same narrative. And there are a lot of options. You were right. There are some great options, and none of them suck. They're all great options. I mean, any which way you shake it.
Yeah, but if there is never a fight with Cowboy that sucks, honestly.
What'd you say sucks?
There is never a fight where Cowboy is in that sucks.
Oh, never, never. I it,
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I mean, the Edwards fight was a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
underwhelming. I wouldn't say it sucked.
yeah. It wasn't great. I think stylistically, it wasn't a great matchup. I think for yeah, it wasn't a great fight. Indeed, you're right. That would be maybe the least great fight I saw Cowboy in a couple of last fights. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think the fight sucked. I think it was a little underwhelming though.
Yeah,
That also being it's Cowboys' last loss, I believe, because then you
right.
go and right into Mike Perry and yeah.
And it was at welterweight, and now he's back at lightweight.
Yep, yep, yep. And yeah, that's another thing I wanted to touch on. It's almost impossible, man, as a fan of this sport, and I think you could attest to it, to really gauge just how much weight cutting really does affect the fighter because we see these guys take these massive weight cuts and then oh they get knocked out or oh they lose and oh my god he looks drained. And then you have guys like Cowboy Cerrone who, kind of debunk the myth. It's not the normalcy, but it really how I guess my question is how far do you think Cowboy can go without kind of mapping out his future road? How far do you think he can go at this stage in his career in a Shark Tank like 155?
It depends on who he fights next, man. I think there are some matchups he can win, but there are also some matchups I really don't see him win. Like a matchup against Tony Ferguson, Khabib, I don't see him winning those fights, to be honest. And I don't see him winning against Dustin Poirier either. So it depends on who they give him next. It really depends on that, I think.
To be honest with you, I think I've picked against Cowboy. Let's see, Till Edwards Perry, but I've picked against Cowboy in 4 of his last 5 fights.
I only picked for Cowboy against Perry. The other ones I picked against him as well.
Yeah, man. And looking back on it, it's like, man, we couldn't see that coming. I don't know. Um, just,
It's what cowboy is showing up, right? It's the cowboy. Which cowboy is showing up? And if it's the cowboy we all know how great he can fight, then it can be good for him, you know. But if the cowboy shows up against the cowboy that showed up against Still, yeah,
yeah, and I guess my last thing on Cerrone before I want to kind of maybe highlight 1 or 2 things about Iaquinta. It it seems like Cowboy has everything working against him, and that's what I think makes him even more dangerous than he already is. Because think about it, man. He's cutting more weight. Uh, some people would disagree, but and it's not the gap isn't huge because lightweight and welterweight are the creme de la creme in terms of weight classes, in my opinion, especially the UFC's offering of the 2 weight classes. But if I had to give the edge to one, I'd give it to lightweight. So you go to a tougher weight class, you're cutting more weight, you're taking on guys. If in comparison, Leon Edwards, Mike Perry, Alexander Hernandez, Al Iaquinta, you could definitely make the case Hernandez and Iaquinta, especially being number 4 in the lightweight division, is an uptick in talent, but that's a conversation for another day. What I'm trying to say is leaving Jackson Wink, all that drama, that all of these are mitigating factors into what could cause him success. But man, just being a dad seems to push him. And I don't know, it's inspiring, but it's also, I believe that we can all learn a lesson from it. Do you take any stock in any of that? Or
man.
I
I
think
don't,
you're a traditional, let's just get to the fight type of guy. What do you think?
man. I don't know, man. It can be, but I can't say it because I'm not a dad, so I don't know what that fire is, right? So that's hard to say but if that's something that drives him and that takes him to higher levels, yeah, why not? You know. But I can't say if it's like that. I have no idea. It's just guessing for me.
Yeah, just it seems like that from my end as well. It's just kind of more so of an educated guess. As far as Al Iaquinta is concerned, um, you know, for me, the thing that was puzzling for him, I obviously everybody that watches any type of unarmed combat at this point and has seen a Cowboy Cerrone fight should know that he's not a fast starter.
Yeah,
But
true.
Iaquinta started somewhat fast, and you kept waiting, or at least from my vantage point, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting to see him kind of put his foot back on the gas, and that never happened.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's really guessing here, man. I think I I just think Cowboy did a perfect job, man, and I think many people were surprised, including Al Iaquinta, I think as well, to be honest. But yeah, I was really surprised because I thought Al Iaquinta would get the job done, but he didn't, and Cowboy did. So it's just hard to break down this because it can have many factors, I think.
And Cowboy, even continues to do things that no one has ever done. We know the most wins, the most bonuses, the most finishes. Nobody had ever knocked Al Iaquinta down in a mixed martial arts contest before. And
Yeah.
that kick that split the guard in the fourth, that's one of those moments where you're like, whoa, like, oh my God. Like, I know that you and I shared a moment on this very podcast a while ago talking about what emotions we had when Khabib dropped Conor with that overhand right. Not to the same magnitude, obviously, but that's one of those things where you're like, oh, he just did that, man. An incredible win for Donald Cerrone, and obviously a very important win. And that brings me to this. If I put on my matchmaking pants and my best Sean Shelby wig,
Oh God, eyes closed, people, eyes closed.
um, here's what makes sense to me. And like I said earlier, you could merry-go-round these matchups all around in any which way that you want, and none of them suck. But if Khabib and Poirier, and rightfully so, are tied up in Abu Dhabi for the undisputed title,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear that, and the UFC rankings, surprisingly, reflect this. Numbers 2 through 5, that's your little 4-man tournament right there. You got Tony, you got Conor, you got Gaethje, you got Cowboy. Do I think Conor, is the most deserving at 155 pounds to be within that mix? No, but I mean, are we going to lie to ourselves and say that he wouldn't be included in that mix if they were to operate with that mindset? Yeah, I think so. Tony, Conor, Cowboy, and Gaethje. Before I tell you what I would do, if your job was to match those 4 in any which way you can, as kind of like okay, these guys fight, and then whoever dwindles down from that maybe gets the crack next at the undisputed champ, how would you go about it?
Um, in all honesty, I would go Tony against. If it looking from a sportive perspective, I go with Tony against Donald Corbo Cerrone, and I go with Gaethje against Conor. But the UFC will go with Cowboy against Conor and Gaethje against Tony, and they will give the winner of Cowboy against Conor the title shot.
What do you? That's what you think is going to happen, right?
That's what they're gonna do, yeah.
How do you feel about that, though?
Bullshit. I don't think Conor deserves a title shot at all at this moment. I rather have him stay away. I don't care about the guy anymore, to be honest. He is. Listen, man. Like I said to you before, the media and the UFC keeps him. How do you say that? Keeps him in the mix. If he farts or something on Twitter, people retweeting it, the media writing an article about it. They keep him. I don't find the word right now, but yeah, I honestly don't care. He hasn't won a fight since he defeated Alvarez, I think. So it's true, right? Since he defeated Alvarez, yeah.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So why is he even ranked still at the top 5 right now?
What's the top 5 right now?
I say, why is Connor even ranked now at the top
Oh,
5?
yeah.
From a
Well,
sportive perspective, I'm talking. I'm not talking out of business perspective.
right. No, I mean totally. There aren't a lot of
The,
bullet points that you
now,
can.
the big problem with the UFC is that they keep investing in fighters that don't even want to fight. They keep investing in Brock Lesnar. Remember? And Brock Lesnar didn't even want to fight. So they go with DC against Stipe, a fight they should have done 6 months earlier, but they didn't want to do it because they want DC against Lesnar. And that's the thing with UFC, which really annoying me, and you know that. I said it so many times already. But what I should do is Donald Cowboy Cerrone against Tony Ferguson, and the winner of that gets the title shot. That's what I should do. That was your question, so that's what I should do.
Cowboy and Tony,
Yeah,
great fight. That'd be a great fight. Two dudes that are very underrated off of their back in terms of a grappling comparison. And I mean, those guys on their feet are both very wild and unorthodox. And that brings me to what I would do. And Tony Ferguson meeting with UFC brass, I believe, this week. I know he was in Vegas.
yeah,
And it's great to hear that he's doing okay. From everything I was reading and all of the, the internet's a dark place, my friend. And as soon as the MMA globosphere, if you want to call it that, got a hold of headlines that had Tony Ferguson restraining order and why. I mean, you know how far they could have taken that. It's good to see that Tony is in a good place and is talking about being ready to fight, and that his wife followed through on her word about whatever with pulling back the restraining order after he got the help he needed. Beside the point.
yeah.
Just saying I'm happy for Tony. Now, where nobody would feel happy for Tony is the moment in which the UFC calls and say, hey, Tony, what do you think about Justin Gaethje? Dude, Ferguson versus Gaethje would be outlawed in 12 countries. That is a crazy fight. That's a crazy fight. And I don't even know how to begin breaking it down. Like, I've tried to think about it, and obviously I haven't gone to a huge length to break it down, being that it's not really booked. But wow, I mean, that's a violent fight. And then, we talk about how Conor, I agree with you. Conor being in the top 5, we could go on all day long about why the UFC rankings are a sham and why the panel in which voting for them shouldn't be doing so. But the reality of the situation is he's there, and Cowboy's calling for the why not do Conor and Cowboy?
Very simple.
The fight.
Very simple. Why not? Because if you do what you say, like Tony Ferguson against Gaethje and Cowboy against Conor, let's say Ferguson wins. Let's say Conor wins. We get the next title shot against Khabib versus Poirier.
Good point.
Yeah, that's why I don't want
it. That fight is very simple to me in terms of peeping into the future. I mean, Conor obviously is going to come out blazing, and Cowboy's going to get better as the fight goes on. We don't need to spend too much time talking about hypotheticals, but
I just hope Cowboy does what he said. He said, do you remember when they searched an opponent for Conor after Dos Anjos pulled out?
Yep.
And they gave him Diaz, and also Pettis and Cowboy were running for that fight.
Yep.
Then Cowboy said, I'm not going to strike with him. I take him down from the beginning, and I will submit him. If Cowboy does that, let him fight Conor. Please let him fight Conor.
Yeah. I would say that's definitely the path of least resistance. Never a dull moment at 155 pounds. So just briefly before we get into new fight bookings in this weekend, so one thing I love, and I'm a big advocator as well as proprietor of positive things, say that 5 times fast, when it comes to Bellator. For the most part, they've been good to me in terms of covering their events, and the PR guys are really cool, and I think they do a good job. Obviously, you and I have a distaste for post-limbs, but that's a different conversation. One thing I really like that they're doing is the European series. The first one was awesome. There was someone getting KO'd cold what felt like every 5 minutes. And then this past weekend in Birmingham, they had a 4-fight main card that had Raymond Daniels with what some people are calling knockout of the year so far, in which he faked a spinning attack and looked to be going high kick and just bink with the right hand.
Call the tornado punch.
Whew. Is that really like the official name for that?
I don't know. I just call it like that. I like it.
The Tasmanian devil straight right. Then you had and I'm still kicking myself for not betting it. You had plus 280 underdog Pedro Carvalho training out of SBG come out on top over a guy that I believe off the top of my head has been a title challenger at Bellator, Derek Campos. Then Fabian Edwards with the up kick, and then Brent Primus with a go-go plata. I mean, I'd be willing to bet my grandchildren's college fund you'll never get a 4-fight main card with a succession of finishes like that. As rare as those, again, I mean, we're talking about a submission that's never happened in the UFC.
Yeah.
Were you watching it? I was watching it like while I was trying to do UFC Ottawa stuff at the same time, and I
watching Ottawa, dude. I was UFC Ottawa watching. I saw the clips on the Bellator because they posted whole rounds. So
yeah, yep. And I want to get into who is really the beneficiary and who would be, losing from the UFC and Bellator coming at the same time in a moment. However, before we get to that, gonna do what I always do on this podcast. Some new fight bookings for the upcoming cards. Got a few cards to go through. UFC Stockholm, Nick Hayne will take on Frank Camacho, who fills in for Luigi Vendar. Dude,
Vendramini.
I'm thinking off the top of my head. Vendramini?
Luigi Vendramini.
Vendramini. Luigi. Frank Camacho will fill in. That fight's at 155. He's moving back down after suffering that head kick KO at 170 to Jeff Neal.
Yeah.
And then Bartosz Fabinski is going to take on Sergey. Help me out with this one too. Kondowsko,
yeah.
That guy's fought like 33 times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like everywhere, like ACB because I did a little bit of research on him. ACB, M1 maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head. You know better than me.
You know that fight is already booked for a month. They only announced
really?
it. Yeah, man, that's already booked for a month.
I saw and we were talking about it yesterday in private. The ESPN Fight Center, they kind of make some mistakes sometimes. Like they have Sterling and Munoz listed as a prelim right now. I would be willing to bet a large amount of money that is a mistake. And
I don't know honestly, dude, because they already reshuffled it. It was Munoz and Sterling was first on the main card.
Yeah. Yep.
Now they reshuffled it, and which they put on the main card now. I think. Oh yeah, Bevon Lewis against Darren Stewart is now on the main card.
I mean, dude, there's no way that's what they're doing. I mean, yeah. And here's my question, because I look at it I look at the fight centers almost every single day. How often do you look at
them? 10 times a day.
Yeah, I figured as much, because you're always in tune with what's changing, what's in what place. So you would remember Magny and Luque was in a similar situation for UFC Rochester.
Yeah.
And I was in kind of the same boat there. I was like, I mean, really? This is the third fight on the card? There's no way.
No, but did you saw when they posted Magny against Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos, that the fight that didn't happen? That was the core main event back then, and now it's Luque against Magny. So we already knew it was not going to be on the prelims. Would be very weird.
That was one of those situations too, where you have a fight that you think that you're excited to see and you want to see it. You talk about Magny and Capoeira, you're like, and then it fizzles out, and you're like, oh, and then the new guy steps in, and it's Luque, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not upset anymore. I mean, those are both fantastic fights.
It's a fun card, man, Rochester.
It really is. Oh man, I think that's one of the better offerings in terms of a fight night card so far this year.
Yeah.
When you look at it on paper.
And by the way, the June 1st card in Stockholm, no, I can watch because I don't have to watch the UEFA Champions League final.
It's on June 1st?
Yeah, man.
It's not on May 20.
I thought it was June 1st, man. Or am I now?
Well, you might be right. I've just always operated under the impression that the Champions League final is always on Memorial Day weekend.
Let's see to make sure.
Listening to this, cursing us for talking about soccer, I promise it'll be for 10 more seconds.
It's for you, Max, especially.
It's
June 1st.
It's June 1st. I gave my speaker the fattest death stare today when I was listening to your guys' breakdown podcast, and he goes, "Ooh, it's a rough week." After his team beat mine. All right, dude. Rough week. So rough. Me and Max had fun with that though. Anyway,
I know.
Bellator 222. Heather Hardy got an opponent, Taylor Turner. She's 3-5. Don't really care. Aaron Pico is going to be fighting on the card. At least that's according to ESPN. New reporter from ESPN, Mark Ramundi. He's also joining Jackson Wink.
Yeah.
That's an interesting move for him. His opponent is to be determined. I'm very intrigued to see not exactly who they match him up with, but what level of opponent they match him up with after they brought him into the Corrales fight as quick as they did. And then I know you're upset about the shine that, or lack thereof, Ricky Bandejas versus Patrick Mix is going to get. Bandejas and Mix, I mean, these are two of the top prospects at bantamweight in the world. And that's really saying something about a weight class that I continuously go on the record and say has every single chance to be as good, as stacked, as deep as the lightweights and welterweights of the world in 2-3 years' time, given the amount of prospects in this weight class. These are two of the finest outside of the UFC, period. And I saw on Twitter you were a little bit upset at the notion that these guys might be on the prelims.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, why Dylan Danis and Heather Hardy are on the main card, and I understand name value, but you want future stars, man, and Banderas and Mix are probably one of your future stars, maybe two, and you should give them the exposure on a main card, I think, and not putting them on an app. That's just I don't understand that, and plus the fact that I think Banderas won his last fight against Archuleta, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think Archuleta cruised with that fight. I had it 29-28 Archuleta though. What rounds did you give Bandejas? Bandejas surely had the third. Did you give him the second?
Yeah, probably. I don't remember exactly, but I've watched it, and I thought I definitely had Bandejas winning that one by 29-28. But I don't know if I gave him the first or second. I don't know anymore, to be honest.
I had to recap that fight. That's why I have a pretty vivid memory of it.
You have?
What's up?
What did you say you had?
I had it 29-28 Archuleta.
Yeah, but you were there live or something, or what did you say?
No, I recapped that for Keith.
Recapped. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's probably why I remember it to a T the way I did. Plus, I was really excited for that fight. And I mean, rightfully so. To piggyback off of your point that you just made with these two guys, that I mean, when you kind of sit and look around at the surrounding cast of 135 pounds in Bellator, it's like, okay, there's you, there's Caldwell. That's it. We're done. There's not a lot of depth in this weight class. So it would make all the sense in the world to give these guys a spotlight. I'm with you, man. I think that's one of the more high level fights on the card. Preaching to the choir at this point. But two cards that got significant action in terms of building its depth. UFC Greenville has a main event. Renato Moicano will take on the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung. I would say that across just about every weight class in the UFC, if you had to make a case for a guy coming off a loss, getting a top 5 opponent, I would be the least argumentative in that opportunity being given to Chan Sung Jung. Cody Stamann and Rob Font is an interesting fight at 135 pounds. I do not know why my initial lean is Stamann pretty hard, but kind of is. Do you have any thoughts on those? Are we assuming Stamann and Font is the co-main?
I don't know what else we have in Greenville.
The only other fight that's ranked versus ranked would be KDB versus Montana De La Rosa.
Yeah, that may be a co-main event fight. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would assume. You have any initial draws from Moicano and Korean Zombie?
Nah, man, I have to go look deeper into that. But I like both guys. I think a Korean Zombie was like 1 second away from a win against Jair Rodriguez. So
literally 1 second.
Yeah, that's why I said literally 1 second away from a win. So yeah, That's a fun fight, man. But yeah, I don't know yet. I have to overthink that because that can go either way, in my opinion.
Right. Definitely. Weird. Matt Wyman coming
Yeah,
back.
what the fuck,
Where the hell? Oh,
dude? I was reading the Greenville online if there were any new fights, and I was scrolling. I was Luis Pena against Matt Wyman. Matt Wyman.
right.
I was like, for real. So I thought maybe it's a typo. So I gonna search like, is he retired? I know I couldn't find anywhere he was retired. I was like, is this for real? I should be. He's a lightweight. So I put, yeah, it was Matt Wyman. It's crazy, man. And now it's also on ESPN Fight Center. So yeah,
You know, for a guy like Matt Wyman, okay,
yeah,
for a guy like Matt Wyman to carry in to whether it's a fight, whether it's a bachelor party, I don't give a damn what it is. For him to carry in to anything, the nickname handsome, and him be as ugly as that man is, a little bit of a cause of concern. That man ugly.
okay,
um, Dan Ige versus Kevin Aguilar is a fantastic fight as well.
yeah.
Something we'll have to give between a couple of guys at 145 that are on a roll. That's a fun fight as well. UFC Minneapolis, Eric Anders fills in on short notice. Got to help me with his with this name too. Roman, is it
I say Dolice.
Delice? That's his second consecutive fight in a row. He's had to withdraw from.
Yeah.
Uh, Eric Anders takes the short notice opportunity there. Sergio Pettis again at 135. That's always going to hurt me a little bit to see him take fights at 135. I know that that's the only route he has. Uh,
Hmm.
man, I mean, he's a 125er through and through. He'll take on Ricardo Ramos. Jared Flash Gordon meets Dan Moret. Emily Whitmire takes on Amanda Ribas, who can call me, by the way. Um, Gilbert Melendez, Arnold Allen is booked for the 19th time at UFC 239. And then this is what I kind of sped through this to talk about. So you briefly said DC Stipe 2 earlier. I'm glad this fight's being made.
Me too.
The only justification I would have had, and I know this is going to sound like a guy clawing on a whiteboard and just scratch just that awful noise. I know this is going to be tough for you to hear because you don't like any which parts at all about Brock Lesnar fighting for any title in the UFC, whether it's heavyweight or strawweight. But the only thing that I wouldn't have minded seeing was Daniel Cormier get his due. That's the sentiment everybody keeps echoing, and I think that's what Dana kind of tries to do to justify it. Is like Daniel deserves it and blah blah blah. It's true. I
You
mean,
know what? You know
but
what? Pay him $4 million extra if you think he deserves it, and give him just a legit fighter to fight.
I agree. I don't think that I don't think that that should be your be all end all. This is what we're gonna tell the media because we know this is bullshit type of thing. I don't agree with that. But I mean, I really like DC a lot. And it would have at least warmed my heart a little bit for him to get what he wanted. But that's only selflessly saying that from his point of view. I still wouldn't have been too interested in Cormier versus Lesnar in the first place. But Cormier and Stipe rightfully rebooked with a Yoel Romero Paulo Costa side dish.
You know, I only say this, man. How many times I see DC in the octagon, the better. Because if I see him in the octagon, he's not in the booth commentary. So
You don't like him commentating?
no, absolutely not.
Wow.
He's commentary this weekend again, man, and that sucks. But yeah, whatever.
Wait, he's on the call this weekend?
Yeah, man.
It's him, Anik.
I don't know, but I read that he was there, so doesn't make me happy. But yeah, whatever.
That surprises me
Why?
because I think he does a good job.
Nah, he's just annoying to me, man, in the commentary booth. I don't believe him. You know what I mean? He's laughing about his own jokes. I do that as well. It's just annoying.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. DC's made me laugh on numerous occasions.
Okay,
But sometimes he thinks he's a lot funnier than he actually is.
man.
Um,
I know people don't like Dominic Cruz, and I like Dominic Cruz, man. So last time when DC and Dominic Cruz were together, and DC was laughing about something, Cruz said, "That's not funny, DC." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, stop it." It's like,
In terms of technical acumen, I think Dominic Cruz provides the most in that department in terms of getting what you want to get out of a color commentator.
yeah,
However, if
as
you were
far as yeah, I understand.
if you were to play a drinking game in which you have to take a shot for every time that guy said underhook and teep kick, you'd be dead in 5 minutes. Um, so let's get into it. Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade
Yeah,
are at the forefront of the MMA world that sees two gigantic cards culminating of a week at the culmination of a weekend in which we have pretty fun fight card tonight. Got a couple tomorrow.
yeah.
Thoughts opening up on Rose Namajunas making her second title defense against Jessica Andrade in enemy territory.
Yeah, I mean, Roy's gonna keep the distance, and maybe she takes her to the ground. Her ground game is better than Andrade's one. Her stand-up game, she only has to watch out for those big punches from Andrade, and she will do that. And I see Rose winning this one pretty easy by unanimous decision, or even by a submission late in the fight. I think I don't think Andrade will come close to her. If she lands a hard punch, she can knock her out 100%, but it's not going to happen. She's too smart, Rose, to go crazy.
You know, first off, I wanna
You want to
counter
have something to drink? Yeah, sure. What do you want?
I want to counter one thing you said.
Yeah,
You seem to be almost giving off the vibe in which you're like nearly positive Rose's ground game is superior to Andrade's.
yeah, I'm sure.
Saying that,
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would agree. I would agree for sure. Now,
Thank you.
do I think the separation is massive?
No, no,
Particularly
no.
not. I think that Andrade has something to her advantage that, I mean, not only Rose won't have, but a lot of girls fighting at 115 won't have, and that is sheer and brute strength. Granted, where she gains in the strength department, Rose Namajunas easily has the edge in the technical acumen
And
and overall striking, like
Davidson,
in terms of fluidity.
Davidson, JJ showed everyone how to fight Andrade in a 5-round fight. Keep the distance, pick your shots. That's what she showed. And Rose can do that as well, man. I don't see any problem here. Or Rose has to have problems with the over here that she doesn't have it right at that moment and she overcommitted to something, you know. But if Rose is in the zone, she won't have any problems with Andrade.
Bingo, though. I must say, my friend, your opinion being one of the one that I respect at the highest clip of people I know in this game, got to disagree with you, my friend.
Okay.
I think this is somewhat of a bad matchup for Rose.
This podcast is over. Just kidding.
I really do. I really think to piggyback off of what you said, I think there is a blind. I'm not really a big proprietor of making predictions on fights with with keeping kind of reserved thoughts in the back of my head regarding someone's mental state, even though that kind of has been what's been in the spotlight when talking about Rose Namajunas over the past few months. And I'm not at all saying that your point or your comments that you made about if she is in this mental state could play to a disadvantage for her. I'm not at all saying Jessica Andrade will be the beneficiary to that to the point she takes the belt. However, I think in women's MMA, particularly, this is not a statement I'm going to make from any basis of sheerly sex versus sex, men versus women. It's just the reality in which the UFC didn't allow women in until 2012.
I don't know exactly, but late. Yeah.
Women's MMA is so much so in its infancy that the very first queen of the sport, per se, Ronda Rousey, was sitting on the throne and let the sport zip right by her while she took the seat. What I'm making a greater point by saying that, or what point I'm making by saying that is, when you have qualities fighting as a woman in mixed martial arts that far surpass, and whether it is technical, whether it is skill acquired, grappling per se, or whether, I mean, it could be a number of things. In women's MMA, the game is still so young that you can get by and even win in a lot of fights based on staying to your base, kind of a la mid 2000s UFC, late 2000s when it was specialist versus specialist. I really see Jessica Andrade doing no type of disguising, doing no type of pretending, doing no type of giving Rose looks that are going to cause her to think twice. I think she's going to put her head down. I think she's going to march forward. I think she's going to wing some shots. I think she might be a little more careful in which she chooses her shots. But where I think she wins this fight is in the clinch.
Okay.
Being that you have differing points, I mean,
no problem. I have to say something first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ronda isn't the queen, Gina was, but that was all. Okay.
She can call me too. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's what you're saying. Talking about Gina Carano. You correcting me in which, like, I alluded to Ronda and that Gina. Correct. I definitely stand corrected. You're right. 100%. So you think Rose takes a decision in Brazil?
A decision, a dominant decision or submission.
I could see it. I've thought about that too, and I even put on the record on Twitter the other day that the more I read and the more I look into it, I've been dangerously close to changing my pick because I could come up with bullet point.
Let me give you a tip. Never change your pick after your first pick you made. Don't change it.
I've been 50-50 on that in the past.
What?
I've been 50-50 in terms of success on changing my picks in the past.
I never change my pick, man. I always go with what I think first. And if I really see something else, I'm like, no, man, I'm completely off on this one. Then I change it. But normally I never change my first pick how I see it. And that's probably why I suck with picking this year. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you and Max are having somewhat of a nothing serious, somewhat of a quarrel over points. I was listening to that earlier. You guys do a really good job with that, by the way. I tell Max all the time, you guys do a great job on that breakdown podcast.
Yeah, why you tell Max and don't tell me?
Oh, dude, because I have, I have so much disdain and anger and bitterness. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
My guy. This is what, your fourth time on the podcast?
Hero for you, I think third, but could be fourth. I don't know, remember anymore, to be honest.
Fifth. I think it's the fourth, though.
Do you count the ATC ones as well or not?
No.
No? Okay.
So I'm going on Andrade. I have not gone as far as to picking rounds and methods yet. But if I had to on the spot, I'm going to go with Andrade. I'm going to go with decision because I'm thinking in scenarios in which she could finish Rose. And to be honest with you, I think the chances of Rose getting robbed even in hostile territory are somewhat – the likelihood of that is enticing enough for me to be able to go on the record and say that my official pick would be Andrade by decision. Close fight, close decision.
Okay, yeah. It's no problem to have the main event wrong. I have it once as well sometimes. So.
Moving on. Co-main event. Have no idea why this is the co-main event. I'm not sliding the matchup because I don't hate it. I just think that there's a damn good one right underneath it, but we'll get into it. Jared Cannonier and Anderson Silva. My first question to you, was this the right fight to make for Anderson Silva in such like a big moment for Anderson himself, fighting in a place that he holds so dearly to himself?
Yes, this is a great fight stylistically for Anderson Silva. I think he will win this one. This is a perfect fight for him. I also broke this one down with Max. I can't see him losing this one, or he has to get clipped in the first round. But man, he will keep the distance. He can go with Cannonier to the ground as well. So yeah, I have unanimous decision win here for Anderson Silva. I have no doubt in my mind for this pick as well.
Man, I mean, to even go further than he could go to the ground with Cannonier. I would go as far as saying that he would be, he would be the alpha male of the situation in which the fight hit the mat.
Yeah,
There's not a whole lot of a sample size of evidence that you could use to kind of refute that in terms of Jared Cannonier's grappling ability.
I agree, man. I 100% agree.
And Cannonier, this is what makes these fights somewhat interesting, is that when you have guys that catapult themselves into the top 10 off of a streak in which was less favorable, because let's remember, Jared Cannonier before the David Branch fight, what I think the Dominic Reyes fight was right before that. And then before that was it Jan Blachowicz? Yes.
I know he fought Glover as well. So.
It was Jan, yeah, Glover was 2 fights before that, and he beat Nick Roerick.
Yeah.
And in the fight before Glover, he beat Ian Cutelaba, which, by the way, if anyone's listening to this and needs a Fight Pass recommendation for later when you get bored, tune up Ian Cutelaba and Jared Cannonier. That was a hell of a fight. But when you have these guys that kind of catapult into the top 10 on the heels of a less than favorable stretch, you have no real idea on how to gauge what their skill level really is. Then you add in the fact that he dropped weight classes and completely looks like a different guy. I'm telling you, man, all of those factors don't play a whole lot in my head. I'm with you. I really like Silva in this matchup as well. I went on the record to say after the Adesanya fight, I can truly and 100% say that even today, I mean, tell me that Anderson Silva can't beat at least 7 guys in the top 15 at 185 right now.
No, I can't say that to you.
I think he can. I mean, I thought he looked good against Israel Adesanya, as good as you possibly can in a losing effort to a guy that many people are calling the next big thing in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. It's getting boring, man. I agree with all the time.
We were definitely disparaging on the main event, and who knows?
Yeah,
and method and round, what do you think? Do you think Anderson
dominant unanimous decision or a submission even in the first or second round, man? Yeah.
I got him by TKO in round 2.
Nice.
Will be interesting to see. I don't know how many fights are left on Anderson's contract.
I thought he wanted to stop after this one, but can be wrong.
That might be the case. I might be crazy. I might have been dreaming. I might have been both. But I believe at some point I can remember seeing somewhere that the ideal number for him is 2. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
maybe, I don't know.
This is the main event for me. Aldo Volkanovski. This is this is the exact role that I foresaw Aldo fitting perfectly into, one that is kind of less than desired, as the guy that comes up short against a world champion twice. And then the UFC is like, okay, well, you're as accomplished as you are. You're the number one ranked guy in the world. We're going to just feed you guys that are potential number one contenders to be. If you shut them down, you turn them away. If they get past you, they get a title shot. So far, Jose Aldo has shattered the dreams of Jeremy Stevens and Renato Moicano alike. Will Alex Volkanovski be the third? Your thoughts?
Yes, first round TKO win for Jose Aldo. That's what I see, and that's what I think. I broke this down with Max as well, and yeah, I mean, Jose Aldo, everybody was like, and me included, after the two Holloway fights, like, it's probably over for him. But it's definitely not. It's just Holloway is that good at featherweight. And yeah, we saw Aldo the last two fights, man. Two finishes, two crazy finishes, two very solid performances. And listen, man, Volkanovski looked impressive, but if he gets clipped like he did in the Mendes fight, and Aldo clips him in the first, he'll put him away, man.
Yes, he will.
Aldo will put him away, and Aldo will put him away. Listen, I've already a lot of crazy Anzac people out after me after our team MMA DNA announced the 243 card in Sydney at the same time at the NHRL event or something, and I will have more crazy pissed Anzac people after me because Aldo is going to win against Volkanovski.
You had crazy Anzac people coming at you because of conflict of interest?
We got like we posted last Monday that UFC 243 will take place in Sydney at the Bank West Arena.
I saw that.
And we got like, yeah, you guys are bullshit, and that's not true. And it's at the same day as the NHRL rugby game or something, which is huge over there. I was like, yeah, but it doesn't overlap each other, you know. So what are your problem? And then they are like get crazy pissed and something, and they're like, no, it's not true, and we don't want that. It's like, okay, we will see. Listen, you can call me out if it doesn't happen. It's no problem, but don't talk shit when you don't know yourself, you know. So
right, and the Anzac community has always been some of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
They've always been very kind to me.
Me too.
However, it's very hard for me to believe any situation in which you or anyone that represents the website that you wave the flag for to be like, hey, dude, wanna run a story that's completely not true? Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah, not happening. So that's a little crazy to me. But
listen, it's like this: the UFC asked for a license to hold an event for UFC 243 at the Bankwest Arena in Sydney. And the Bankwest Arena in Sydney gave the license to hold the event over there.
Now, yeah, now for those lesser in the know, that obviously doesn't book the event and set it in stone, put it on posters, let's go. However, obviously that's the first step in the direction to making that possible.
Yeah, plus we heard that they want to book Whitaker against Adesanya over there. It's targeted. We didn't say it's official or anything. We said it's targeted over
right,
there.
Right. So, people often, because we know how easygoing MMA fans are on Twitter, as sarcasm pours out of my face. I say that.
Yeah, that's why I'm always on the fence, man. You know, if somebody says verbally agreed, yeah, great, but I don't post verbally agreed, because if I post verbally agreed and it doesn't happen, people say, hey, but you posted that was happening, right? I don't play that shit, you know.
Yeah, you've actually gone on the record and said that a couple times before.
Yeah.
My pick for fight of the night is Thiago Alves versus Laureano Staropoli. That's another Fight Pass recommendation for anybody. Laureano Staropoli's UFC debut against Martin Bravo. I thought that was one of the more underrated fights of 2018. So we get our second chance to take a look at him against 21 fight UFC veteran. You got a pick for that one? I like Staropoli by decision.
Alves by decision.
Trinaldo Ferreira. I like Ferreira.
Me too.
You like Ferreira?
Yeah, inside the distance.
Trinaldo is constantly overlooked, I think, and that's what's given me pause with this fight.
True, dude, but Carlos Diego Ferreira has looked so good, man. I also picked him against Khabibov, so why would I pick him against Ronaldo, man?
Right, right. As far as the prelims go, from top to bottom, a couple of things that I want to point out.
Yeah.
I really, really think that Irene Aldana versus Betch Correia is a sleeper. And when doing my film set solely for Irene Aldana, I think Irene Aldana is one of the more untapped. It has some of is one on the higher end of fighters in which they have untapped potential in the UFC as far as the women's divisions are concerned. She's shown a lot in terms of when I've watched film, and that's what brings me to my next point. While watching film and breaking down certain film for certain fighters on this card, I'll tell you who on the prelims when I'm watching film, and it's a newcomer, so it's kind of my first look, kind of not. Luana Carolina. She fights in the Fight Pass prelim, the featured Fight Pass prelim against Priscilla Cachoeira. Holy shit, dude! That girl is a murderer. I mean, when I watch her on film, it's like one of the we've been watching fights. It's what we do. It's what we love. We watch it, gets bloody, and we don't really react. I'm watching this girl on film, and I'm like, like I'm like, oh my, like she is a wrecking machine in the clinch. I think fans are going to be in for a treat when they watch her fight on Saturday. Anything jump off to you on the prelims?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a gif of that one, what you did just a few seconds ago. But but Heody Barcelos, man, how can we not name him? I mean, that dude is solid and shouldn't be on the
Yeah,
prelim. And I'm so sad he is not fighting Said Nurmagomedov because that was an absolute great fight.
great fight.
Yeah. And Warley Alves against Sergio Moraes is also a fun one, I think.
That's yeah. Why that fight and Moises versus Halabaugh isn't flipped?
I have no idea. It's
It,
probably, by the way,
all day, you know.
you know what's funny, man? What I said against about Aldana against Korea and the Loudmouth MMA podcast about that fight, but I won't say it here because you were so pumped about that fight.
Not so pumped. Betch Correia might be, the unsung and untested music video vixen of MMA.
According to her, we want her back.
We don't discriminate on this podcast, I promise. But I just am really high on Irene Aldana in a division that I consistently and thoroughly bash, for better or for worse, in terms of depth, in terms of overall talent. I mean, it's good to see the UFC is actually signing girls at 35 this year when they signed 0 in 2018. 0.
She can call you.
What's up?
She can call you.
Oh, she already called me.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I touched on earlier is what I want to talk about quickly before we do Bellator, and then we'll wrap things up. UFC and Bellator going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in my situation, which is obviously not everyone's situation, being the fact that I had favorite sports teams and all of the whole 9 yards, watched Sports Center at the age of 4, sports freak nut, that's just who I am. That's how I was wired. I have to have 2 TVs. It's weird. It's somewhat of a materialistic thing that some people would scoff at. It's just how I am. So it's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
But for others, it creates a conflict of interest. What's your opinion in terms of like you as a fan, does it hinder your overall like viewership having to try to keep track and watch both at the same time?
You,
What do you think?
you want to really know my opinion on that?
Of course.
I don't care about Bellator because it's not on TV over here. It's only on TV the day after. So, as if they want to keep themselves valid to me, they have to be live on TV here. The Birmingham card was live probably because it was on European time, but this card won't be live. So I'm not gonna watch it until the day after. I will watch the results for sure or the short clips, but I'm not gonna watch whole fights. And the UFC over here is on TV, so it's easy. It's easy for me what to check. And we can't use the Zen over here or the Zone or whatever it's called.
Yeah, DAZN. I like DAZN, but
Me too, if I could watch it.
I use it a lot, but but I mean the way in which it's like, oh, it's in this country and it's I get it. You have to have some sort of structure in terms of how you broadcast when you go country to country. I understand. It's hard to keep up with. Like it's like you could do this over in the UK, you could do this over in Europe, you could watch this, but you can't watch this here. It's all very, very difficult to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, so I guess my question to you is then, are you going to be watching Bellator live? Like, do you have a
No,
in which you can?
no, man, I'm not gonna watch it live. I will probably watch it back, but I will watch the clips on Twitter. I will watch the results, but I'm gonna watch the UFC. Listen, as long as Bellator is not showing it live over here, they don't get my attention live.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
And I'm talking main cards because prelims I can watch right app. So
Right. And
or
you're a dedicated and invested fan as well as, member of the Better Informators. So,
mhm.
I mean, I
Listen,
understand
I
why.
like I like Bellator. I like the matchups. It's no problem. I will post it on my Twitter all the time. I don't care. But if the main card isn't live on TV, I can watch it on the internet. I have to do it in a legal way. I can do it sometimes, but I don't really feel to put so much effort in to get a valid stream for like 15 minutes searching, and then it goes away again, or I get a black view, test view, and that's something really annoying. And I really only do it like, for example, if I have to write an article about Gegard Mousasi or Costello van Steenis, if both are on the main card, for the Dutch people, Melvin Manhoff, then I have to do it. But for the other side of things, nah. Listen, man. Of course, I want to watch Pitbull against Michael Chandler, and I want to see AJ McKee against Pat Curran. For sure, I want to watch those fights. But Bellator should come with a better solution, man. Spike TV over here shows sometimes it live, but most of the times it's just a day after. And sorry, man, I have an MMA website, and a day after is a no go. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally relate and understand everything you're saying. With that in the backdrop, here's my question to you that I
Yeah.
know you can answer well, being that you are of the better informed.
Mhm.
I've been reading people dub Michael Chandler versus Patricio Pitbull as the biggest fight in the history of the Bellator promotion. Your response to that would be?
I don't know,
I
man.
have seen
Yeah.
that thrown around.
It's champ versus champ, so I understand where people come from. But dude, Chandler against Alvarez,
Yeah,
there have been so many good fights over there that it's so hard to say it's the best fight on
no,
the
the
Bellator ever.
biggest,
The
not the.
biggest. It's hard. You had also Rory McDonald against Gegard Mousasi. You know,
Mhm.
so I think it's a personal view for people. I don't think it's but in particularly the biggest fight of Bellator, but if people say it's the biggest, I can see it.
I can see the argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you pointed it out. I would maybe lean towards Gegard versus Rory, given the fact that those two, have a little bit more. What's the right terminology I'm looking for here? They've left a little bit more of an imprint on the sport as a whole. I mean, obviously, Gegard Mousasi, that goes without explaining, given all of all of the lack of room that guy has on his trophy belt mantle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And Rory obviously being in all of the wars and getting as close to UFC gold as he was. I think that is a little bit higher. You know, Rampage versus Vanderlei, whatever. Dada 5000 versus Kimbo Slice.
Just don't mention it, man. I mean, Lyoto Machida against Chael Sonnen. Main event.
I don't get me started. That's a great fight to open up the main card. Why is
Yeah, exactly.
But we could go on all day about that. I know you and I could have fun shitting on that.
Otherwise, something fun for you off the record later. So remind me that.
So here's kind of my scope of how Chandler and Pitbull is going to go.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to go all 5 rounds. I think Chandler is going to fight a very smart, but at the same time cohesive and cautious approach in which he fights. Patricio might be coming up a weight class, and who knows how the power is really going to transfer. But I mean, Michael Chandler is the better wrestler. I would say that Michael Chandler, however, though, on that note, probably is not more versed in the submission game. He has got a great submission game, but I would potentially give the edge to Pitbull there. In terms of power, that's something that falls within the realm of unknown for me because, like I said, that translation of power when you move up a weight class is kind of unknown given how long Pitbull has fought at 145. But, man, I mean, I don't know how you could call Pitbull anything other than the greatest fighter in Bellator history if he ends up beating, let alone finishing Michael Chandler and becoming the second two-division champion in promotion history. Having fought, in my opinion, tougher competition than what Bader fought to do so. Co-main event, I think, is what most people are looking at too. Douglas Lima and MVP. You're shaking your head. What's your thought?
Easy money for Douglas Lima.
Lima? Yeah.
Yeah.
People are writing off MVP quickly, man. Am I crazy for saying that I think that the larger MMA community is doing that as a way of like they failing to admit that they're holding a grudge on how disappointed they were in the daily fight? Because let's be honest here, MMA fans pick with their heart, even when they don't think they are. They do.
I was never impressed by MVP, man. He's some good finishes, but against mediocre competition, not against the top guys. And the first, what was that? Fernando Gonzalez. He had a split decision where I think it could have gone both ways. And they matched him up against David Rickles, which was actually a lightweight, if I remember. That was a catchweight fight, I think. But I don't see it, man. And this is the first really top guy he's going to face. Paul Daly is good, but if Paul Daly is going to take you down, Paul Daly has never taken someone down, as I remember. So no, man, I don't see it, man. I think MVP is a lot of hype. He's not bad, but he's not the top of the game. Definitely not. He wouldn't do well in the UFC, in my opinion.
He's got a lot more to work on than I think.
Yeah.
Than I think people may have been led to believe going into the fight.
I don't buy the hype. I'm honest. I don't buy the hype. People were talking about MVP against Adesanya at some point of time. I think that would be very, very bad for MVP, man. And this is a different weight class as well.
Marcel, I mean, you know as well as I do, man. I mean, in this day and age, people will throw out any type of matchup between two human beings to do it. I mean, I bet at one point someone has spoken into existence John Jones versus Butterbean, for Christ's sake. Like, you know, I mean, MVP versus Israel. I mean, come on. But yeah, Daly in what was obviously an effort in which he came up short, I think he definitely helped a lot of other welterweights because while MVP, yeah, the lack of competition, sure. the smaller sample size in which higher level competition is there for us to analyze gives people reason to pause. However, MVP, he had the flash, he had the finishes, he had the highlight reel, he had everything that you needed in the equation to get people to buy in. And I think Paul Daly stripped a lot of that butt ass naked and exposed some holes that I think Lima will be able to take advantage of quickly. I like Lima by first round sub, man.
Yeah, definitely Lima, whatever.
Yeah. AJ McKee cruises against Pat Curran. Jack Swagger's back for his second fight. He's fighting a guy they picked out of a Trace Adkins concert. The guy he fought in his first fight looked like he came straight out of a Kid Rock concert. Like they went like Scott Coker and like the guys like showed up, like looked in the crowd and they're like him.
Oh, just like the Greg Hardy Smolyakov.
Okay. We're about to wrap this up. However, I want to go on the record and I want to say something that's going to be unpopular. And I want to say something that if I had a really large platform, I'd take a lot of heat for. Does Greg Hardy deserve to fight in a co-main event? No. Does Greg Hardy, even at this point, could you make the case he doesn't deserve a spot in the UFC? You could definitely make that case. However, and this is coming from a point of view in which myself, I'm not trying to turn this into a heart-to-heart, but I've hit rock bottom myself. I've been at some low points in my life. I've looked at myself in the mirror and wanted to spit in the mirror at how disgusted I was looking at the guy in the mirror. So I believe in second chances. I also, do you see where I'm going with this? I don't understand why okay, I understand it, but I can't really buy into the overwhelming and overzealous pure hatred for Greg Hardy just because of his past. We all have a past, man. We've all made mistakes. And it's not about your mistakes. I think it's about what you do to better yourself and learn from them, at which John Anik even said on his podcast last week, from what it seems in fighter interviews and shaking of hands and blah, 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 until he gives me or the public a reason to believe he hasn't done that, why should I hate on the guy? That's my opinion.
It's more like
hitting women is a line that you should never cross. I get it, but that doesn't cancel everything.
The thing for me is you're an NFL player. You're hitting a woman. You got suspended or whatever. You're going into fighting. You know, that's for me. It's like an alcoholic who turned his life around and gonna work in the liquor store.
Yeah, the irony is pretty sweet.
Yeah, you understand where I come from, and it's not. And really, I don't know the guy personally, so I actually maybe can't say that. But the whole thing, which is around Hardy, if I see him in an interview and I see him fight, it's not a good feeling what I have watching him.
I get it.
The way he does weird. He acts weird. And I don't like it. And then his boxing coach, he said like, if he really hit that woman, she would be dead or something. I read that recently. So
really,
yeah, I will link you to it later.
Yeah, I think that's the idiocy of one man, kind of shedding a little bit
If
of.
my coach would say that about me, I would kick his ass.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe Greg was upset about seeing that. Maybe he wasn't. Look, all I'm saying is I'm gonna give the guy the benefit of the doubt as a human being before I do as a fighter, in my opinion.
Here is it. Greg Hardy's coach shouldn't be called women beater because he didn't kill his alleged victim.
Wait, say that again?
The coach said Greg Hardy shouldn't be called a women beater because he didn't kill his alleged victim.
That's a quote?
Yeah, I will send it to you.
What is that guy's name, and why is he not institutionalized? That is an insane thing to say on the record. Off the record, that's insane. That's insane. However, kind of divulging too much off point. And I only said all that based off the fact that what kind of made me mad that fight week, people were picking Smoliakov to win that fight purely based off of how they feel about Greg Hardy. Hey, man, you watch that guy fight one time.
2 times even, yeah.
Never pick him to – I could never – after watching two of Smoliakov's fights in which he was finished by Cyril Asker, who's been cut from the promotion, and Luis Enrique, who makes his KSW debut next week.
Asker is not cut yet, by the way.
What's up?
Asker is not cut.
Really? I thought he was.
No, I don't think so, man. He's still on the roster.
Oh, is he really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that's my bad.
He's the next for Greg Hardy.
Either him or Spivak or Marcelo Golm.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the three.
Or Georges Daniel.
Yeah, that makes it. Yeah. I don't think they'll give him another newcomer, but I think they'll give him a guy off losing streaks. Yeah. Hey man, I always appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. I know that you give me some of your time to talk about the sport that we both love. I was not in the most timely manner getting on to here, just doing my duties, but want to thank you once again, my friend, for doing this. It's always a blast. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I want to plug a Dutch guy who is fighting tomorrow on One Championship. He makes his debut. Peter Bust is his name. He has the Archangel is his nickname. He will be the third prelim on One Championship fight. He's fighting Kota Shimoshi. And I know Peter personally. He is a very good guy, and I wish him all the best. And I hope he will make the most of his One Championship debut tomorrow.
Yep, and that One Championship card, for those that are interested, I mean, if you're an aficionado of any type of unarmed combat whatsoever, let alone mixed martial arts, that'll be a great event to check out. There's Muay Thai on there. There's kickboxing on there, MMA on there. That'll be awesome. You said he's the third fight up?
Yeah, I think it's the third fight.
Right. Nice. I will definitely be on the lookout for that fight in particular based off of that plug from you. And for my friend Marcel and I, we would like to sign off. I will be back next week doing some other shit that I don't know yet. But hey, man, that's the beauty of it.
Definitely.
Signing off once again, episode 60, 61, and all the ones to follow will be coming around the corner. Until then, see you later.